Arsenal battered Tottenham 4-1 again in the North London derby, Manchester City survive a scare against Newcastle, and Man United keep the pace for the Champions League spots after beating Everton on Monday night. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90, and it is time for week 28 of the Premier League. It is an absolutely massive week this week regarding the title race, European spots and relegation. Also, as a massive thank you to all of you for the support over on the Patreon and on the channel, I am now doing monthly $100 giveaways. We reached the member goal, which triggered the last giveaway, the winner of which I will announce in a minute. But as a thank you for the amazing support and keeping us over that goal, I'm now doing it every month for the rest of the season. So if you want to get involved, click the Patreon link in the description below. The winner of this giveaway is Evan. So congratulations, he was randomly selected to win the $100 this time around. I'm going to show you this in more detail later on because here are all the winning ACCAs since the last Premier League video, and as you can see, there's a lot, and I don't want to bore you with that right now. We added 3 more correct scores, and here is the current record, but like I said, more on that later. So make sure you drop a like, leave your predictions down in the comments below, and subscribe. Tomorrow I will be uploading the weekend best bets. It won't be a live show because I'm actually away tomorrow. But with that being said, let's get into the first game. It is a spicy fixture at Molineux between Wolves and Aston Villa. Aston Villa dropped points against Leeds at Villa Park last time out, drawing 1-1, and Wolves failed to capitalise on a penalty against Crystal Palace and ended up losing 1-0. Now, I did predict a Palace 1-0 win, but Palace were fortunate to get that win. Like I said, Wolves missing the penalty, and honestly, Wolves obviously have nothing to play for. They're 1 point away from equaling Derby's record. They're obviously going to get that at some point. It's just mental to think how poor Derby were when you look at Wolves this season and knowing that they are just going to get past that points total. But Aston Villa have something to play for, and they've got the likes of Man United, Chelsea and Liverpool right on their tail, trying to knock Villa out of the Champions League spots altogether, despite being up there for basically the entire season. So Aston Villa need to bounce back with a win here, and I'm going to go for it. A 2-1 win to Aston Villa, and the tip is Aston Villa to win at 1.85. I thought even about Villa to win in under 3.5 goals, but I like the odds of Villa to win on its own. I don't think there'll be tons of goals, but ultimately Villa just have to get over the line. Wolves have not been particularly inspiring. After this, we travel down to the south coast for Bournemouth up against Sunderland. Now, these are two teams that have pretty much an even record against each other, with 1 home win in the Premier League, 1 away win in the Premier League each, and a draw as well. Bournemouth shading the goal tally slightly, 7-6. So it's a very closely contested matchup between the two teams, and I'd say they're similar in terms of level. Bournemouth are the home team, and for that reason, I do make them slight favourites. Sunderland have sort of dropped off a little bit. It kind of started when AFCON started and they weren't really getting as many wins as they used to, but still away from home, they're not as good as they are at home, despite obviously losing their last 2 home games as well. So Sunderland not in the best spot. I think Bournemouth can capitalise on that. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and the tip is Bournemouth to win at odds of 1.75. After this, we travel to Turf Moor for Burnley up against Brentford. Now, this is a really interesting matchup. Brentford were without Coyote, I believe, against Brighton. They didn't have their long throws like they usually do, and they lost 2-0 to a very poor Brighton side. Burnley, on the other hand, have seen a bit of an uptick in form, I will say. They managed to obviously beat Crystal Palace the week before last week, and they got a late equaliser against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. So this is actually going to be quite a close one. And between these two teams, the home team has won every single matchup in the Premier League against, well, with these two teams, and both teams to score has landed in 5 of those matchups. So Burnley, like I said, have improved their form recently. Brentford maybe not looking as good as you'd expect them if they're up in 7th place. I do make Brentford like slight favourites, but I'm just going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. And if you've watched my videos this season, you know that I never predict Burnley to get any points. Ever. Literally ever. I don't think I've predicted them a win all season. So predicting Burnley a draw is pretty big. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Like I said, I make Brentford slight favourites, but the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.75 because that does typically happen with these two teams. After this, we travel to Anfield for Liverpool up against West Ham. Now, I did predict Liverpool to beat Nottingham Forest 1-0. It was not pretty. I think they were lucky to win 1-0. Over on the Patreon in the group chat, a lot of people were asking me saying, Matt, do you still think Liverpool are going to win? And I said, yeah, I predicted 1-0 and I think it's going to be ugly. And it was spot on. They did win 1-0 with basically the last kick of the game. It was very, very ugly. And Forest can consider themselves unlucky for not picking up the points. But with this matchup, I mean, Liverpool absolutely own West Ham. They are unbeaten in their last 10 games against them, winning 9 and drawing 1. But West Ham are looking a little bit better lately, and I think they could consider themselves unlucky not to beat Bournemouth. I mean, I know XG isn't everything, but it can tell you how the game sort of went, and I think they beat Bournemouth on XG by more than 2 goals, so they really should have got more than a 0-0 draw. And like I said, although I did predict the 1-0 win for Liverpool, I think they were quite lucky to walk away with that one. So I think this might be a little bit closer, but ultimately I'm going for a Liverpool win. So I'm going for Liverpool to win 2-1. But to side with West Ham and their slight uptick in form, performance, whatever you want to call it, the tip is going to be West Ham +3 handicap and both teams to score. The odds are 1.9, so Liverpool could literally win 3-1. They could win by 2 goals comfortably, and this tip would still come in. I'm just siding with West Ham with a +3 handicap. Both teams to score, nearly evens. I think that's pretty good value. Liverpool, they can win ugly. It doesn't have to be 5-0, but West Ham have been putting up a fight recently, so I think this could be a relatively close game by Liverpool standards against West Ham, where, like I said at the beginning of this sort of segment, they own West Ham. They always beat them, so I am expecting a Liverpool win at Anfield here. After this, we travel to St James's Park for Newcastle up against Everton. Newcastle already battered Everton away this season, 4-1 in the reverse fixture, and that was back when they had a terrible run of form away from home. I don't even know if they'd won a game away from home by that point, and then they go and win 4-1. And I do also feel like Newcastle have a bit more to play for in this fixture because they are in the bottom half of the Premier League. They are behind Everton in the league. And honestly, I make Newcastle a better team. So even without Bruno Guimaraes, I think Newcastle should win this game, especially at home. And I did also predict them to beat Qarabağ 3-2 at St James's Park, which I think is a pretty cool prediction. So I'm going to go for a Newcastle 2-0 win. And if that's the scoreline, then logical tips there are straight away Newcastle to win at odds of 1.75. I think Newcastle should absolutely get the job done here. Everton aren't exactly at full strength themselves. I think Newcastle need to win. After this, it is an absolutely massive game with regards to the title race. It's Leeds up against Manchester City. Ellen Road is a tough place to go, whether Leeds are in 20th or top half or somewhere in between. It's not easy to go to Ellen Road, and that's shown in the recent history between Leeds and Manchester City, where Leeds get on the score sheet every single time. However, Man City also win the game. So both teams to score and Man City win has landed in their last 3 meetings, and when both teams don't score, Man City still win. So I hope Leeds get something. I'm an Arsenal fan, if you guys don't know, but I just don't see it. So I'm going to go for another scary one. You know, they only beat Newcastle by the 1 goal. Newcastle had their second goal disallowed. It's very, very close. I'm going to go for a 3-2 Manchester City win, and I am going to tip Man City and both teams to score at 3.1. I think Leeds at Ellen Road can definitely score, and I think Man City are susceptible to conceding, but ultimately I think they get over the line, especially with Arsenal's big fixture coming up later on in this video against Chelsea. After this, we travel to the Amex for Brighton up against Nottingham Forest, and I found this one really, really difficult to predict. Obviously, not so long ago, we had Nottingham Forest batter Brighton 7-0 at the City Ground. That was in very recent memory, so it's a tough one. But most of their recent games, both of them have gone unders, and both teams to score has landed in just 1 fixture for either team in the last 4. So that's 8 games, and we've seen BTTS no in 7 of them. So I think this game is going to be cagey and lower scoring. But I am actually going to go both teams to score. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. And sometimes when I struggle for a tip, I just have to go for something like this. I'm going for under 3.5 goals at 1.4. You could chuck that in an accumulator to boost the odds, but ultimately, I personally would stay away from this game. I think it's too tricky to predict. I think there's better value elsewhere. Speaking of value elsewhere, we travel to Craven Cottage for Fulham up against Tottenham. Now, straight away off the bat, Fulham have a great record against Tottenham. They've won 3 of the last 4 games against them and drew the other one. And Spurs just looked terrible. They were gifted a goal against Arsenal to make it 1-1. And to be honest, I will say this, even as an Arsenal fan, I do my best to not be biased. I was expecting that second Spurs goal to be given. Whilst technically there was a touch on Gabriel's back, I think he made a meal of it. And I think if the ref gave the goal, VAR wouldn't intervene. it looked very soft, to say the least. I personally think that goal should have been given. And if it was the other way around, I would be fuming. So I can see why people thought that goal should have been given. I think Gabriel manufactured the sort of falling over, because although he was tapped, he could have just ignored the tap and won the header. Then again, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Had he already left the ground before the tap, then I see how that could have put him off balance. But it's 50-50 to say the least. But ultimately, regardless of that, Tottenham looked awful. They have a very thin squad at the moment, a lot of absentees, and Fulham just looked better. Fulham had a brilliant result last week at the Stadium of Light, winning 3-1. Like I said, incredible result. So I'm going for a Fulham 2-1 win, and the tip is Fulham to win at 2.1. Obviously, like I said, I'm an Arsenal fan. Best case scenario this season, Arsenal win the league, Tottenham get relegated. Because, let's be honest, Tottenham will get promoted again. I know the Championship is notoriously difficult to get out of, but when you're a team as big as Tottenham, you will come straight back up. They would walk the Championship. They'd have some funny losses in there, no doubt, but they would come back up, so send them down for a year. Fulham, I hope you win. Fulham to win is the tip. 2.1, I think the odds are very, very good. After this, we have Manchester United up against Crystal Palace at Old Trafford. United are in great form. Lemans in net against Everton was a man of the match performance, to be honest. They managed to get the 1-0 win. And of course, they're now 6 games unbeaten under Carrick. Just that 1-1 draw with West Ham thrown in there thanks to a Sesko late goal. They beat Everton thanks to a Sesko relatively late goal. And Palace were honestly lucky that Wolves missed that penalty in their 1-0 win. They don't look particularly great. They will have played in Europe again, and they're not home and hosed in that tie. They drew 1-1 in the first leg in the Conference League playoffs, so they need to win that. And I think this is going to be a step too far for them. Man United should win this one. I'm going for a 2-0 win, and the tip is Man United to win at 1.53. Now, the next game, it is the big one of the week. It is Arsenal up against Chelsea. But real quick, I just want to say, flashing up on the screen, all the people that are supporting me over on the Patreon. So what do you get over there? Well, as I announced for the first time in this video, you get entrance into monthly giveaways. So if you want a chance to win $100 every month whilst you're a member over there, then click the Patreon link and join up. You also get exclusive members tips and accumulators. I'll go over the recent record in just a moment. You get direct messaging access to me, access to the group chat, which has been absolutely popping off lately. We've got such a wonderful community over there. And you, of course, get my League Un predictions every game, every score, and every tip, which is another Patreon exclusive. And this is the cheapest price you'll ever be able to get it. So click the link in the description. So here's a closer look at the winning accumulators that we've had. There's a lot of good ones in there. Even the win to nil and a result on both teams scored doubles have been really awesome. We had a great weekend in Portugal, Switzerland as well. Europa League, goals, another win to nil double there. I'll scroll a little bit quicker, so if you want to pause and take a look, then by all means do that. There's obviously a lot more ACCAs as the odds get lower because they're more likely to win. So if you want to read all of them, feel free to draw. I've also started adding the tip of the day over on Patreon as well, as requested by you guys. And like I said, 3 more correct scores since we last checked in on this, and here is the current record: 156 units in profit. That's for the whole season, by the way. So click the link in the description, join up if you want the shout out and all the other perks and everything like that. But now back to the Emirates, where it's Arsenal up against Chelsea. Chelsea once again, ill discipline, red card, throwing a lead, late equaliser. Arsenal, on the other hand, absolutely battered Tottenham again. And Arsenal are unbeaten against Chelsea in their last 11 meetings. Obviously, they recently did the double over them in the Carabao Cup semi-final. And the last 5 meetings at the Emirates have seen 5 wins to Arsenal with an aggregate scoreline of 14-1. That is absolutely insane. Averaging nearly 3 goals a game at home and conceding a goal every 5 games is just ludicrous. So I think Arsenal can build on this. I think a lot of people before the Spurs game, first of all, some people with the whole Arsenal are bottling it narrative gave Spurs a chance in that game. But I think a lot of people were looking at Spurs and Chelsea as back-to-back fixtures and saying, oh, that's pretty tricky. Arsenal are going to slip up here and City can then go and take the lead. First of all, there's no saying that City beat Arsenal at the Etihad anyway. But at the moment, everyone's assuming that they do, right? But Arsenal battered Tottenham, and I see no reason as to why they can't beat Chelsea here. Chelsea are, I guess you could argue, going through a bit of a transition. They had a good start under Rosenior, but He's still finding his footing there. Chelsea throwing up some weird results. Like I said, ill discipline at times. So I'm going to go for an Arsenal 2-1 win, which I think is conservative. And I'm going to make the tip even more conservative and give Chelsea a little bit of credit, suggesting they can score and maybe even sneak a draw out of this game, because the tip is going to be Arsenal double chance and both teams to score at 1.95. The odds of Arsenal to win are 1.6. So just to give Chelsea a goal and say that Arsenal won't lose and get the draw on side, I think at 1.95, there's a lot of value there, and it's better value than backing Arsenal to win outright. So that's going to do it for my Premier League predictions this week. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, subscribe, hype the video. I really appreciate it, and please do leave your predictions in the comments. Like I said, subscribe so you don't miss the video tomorrow where I go over the weekend best bets. We had an absolutely awesome week last week, but that is going to do it from me, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.